Welcome to stage 3, implement, with a focus on adult social emotional learning at the district and school level of our flipped classroom model for virtual support of the TSEL framework and standards implementation. I'm Shelby Diaz, your facilitator, part of the Student Behavioral Health and Wellness team here at Southern Oregon's Educational Service District. You will want to have the social emotional learning action plan that you created in stage 2, which was the second video release, available to you to help to steer this next stage. It's important decisions that you make here that are aligned with your goals. So you'll want to revisit your goals and your vision before moving forward. If you're admin, you'll also want to be sure that you have your login created for the Castle District Resource Center website, which can be found at drc.castle.org. We will be guiding you toward important resources related to central office expertise development. So please be sure you have your free access. It's very easy. Just an email address is needed. You'll also want to pull up your interactive TSEL notebook so you can access all of these direct resources from our one-stop shop location. If you need this, please see the Student Behavioral Health and Wellness website, and that would be found under our TSEL tab. All right, so stage 3 is really about implementing, which is so exciting. That means you've done the heavy lift of organizing. So in the spirit of TSEL, take a second and give yourself some props. This is no small feat. Celebrate a little, whatever that looks like for you. Again, we'll be following the 3 signature practices from Castle. These can and should become a part of every educational environment, from here to daily lesson planning, to adult meeting agendas. And that really creates the culture of safety, belonging, and learning, which is at the heart of social emotional learning. And the 3 signature practices are the inclusive opening, the engaging work period, and the reflective closing. And our inclusive welcome that promotes rituals and activities for inclusion, developing and nurturing relationships, builds trust, and affirms identities. The engaging practices provides our learners with sense making. So it's inviting curiosity, practical and relevant to the learning, and always activating that existing schema. And then we'll end today with an intentional close. This is our reflection time. We can look forward to our next steps, any needs that may have arisen in our learning, finding some inspiration, and then circling back to connect our experience. So our inclusive welcome is borrowed from Atlantic Public Schools. It's from the social awareness competency, which is the ability to take the perspective of others and empathize, including those from diverse backgrounds and cultures, the ability to understand social and ethical norms for behavior, and to recognize family, school, and community resources and supports. And our reflection question for you today: how do you ensure that all perspectives are valued and honored to cultivate the highest levels of discourse? As we move in to implementing, it's important that we reflect on this question because so much of the transformative aspect of TSEL is about dialogue. It's about engaging all of the stakeholders in ways that are unique and relevant to them. So please pause this video, 1 to 3 minutes, whatever is best for you, and reflect on this question. Great. Here's some information, some goals, and some examples for adults and students about the second of the 3 signature practices, the engaging work period. Our engaging work period today is really about allowing you the flexibility you need in your work life to watch this video at your own pace, in your own environment, so that you can stop, You can think, you can work, you can collaborate with your colleagues, you can rewatch it if necessary, and engage with all of the accompanying resources and materials linked in your interactive notebook. And of course, we do follow this up by an engaging face-to-face in our virtual support group. So please join us there as well. We're happy to help and to learn from each other. So as we said, stage 3, this is where we begin the work of cultivating the adult and student social and emotional competencies. And today's video, as I mentioned, will focus on the adult side of this. So please stay tuned for our next Flip Classroom release on stage 3, which will be promoting the TSEL for students. Remember, as we in Oregon do the work of transformative social emotional learning, we are engaged in moving from a focus on personal well-being through a focus on interpersonal relations and community building to a transformative approach with a focus on democratic, fair, and inclusive communities for both adults and students. We'll start at the district level in our interactive notebook. We have focus area 2, that's strengthen adult TSEL competencies and capacity of the staff community, which cultivates adults' professional, social, emotional, and cultural competencies. Remember, this is important. The more the enriched understanding our adults have, and the more the adults are living these competencies and vocal constructs, the better they will be able to speak about the district or school's commitment to TSEL with parents or other stakeholders if they're office staff. The better our student-facing staff will be able to model the competencies and vocal constructs for our students. And for our building admin, the better they can model for their teachers and other staff. So this looks like professional learning provided for central office leaders and staff from all departments, including board and cabinet, and providing some foundational learning up front to our new staff. To identify which district leaders will provide strategic support for social emotional learning implementation and to determine the appropriate level of engagement, please use the resource and tools linked in your interactive notebook, which can include the Central Office Expertise Development Plan. This is a template you can adapt to plan how to develop expertise by audience. And the next key action is design and implement a TSEL professional learning program for schools. So already you've been hearing professional learning here, and yes, this is a theme for implementing for our adults, as you could guess. So this tool is Plan SEL Foundational Learning for your school district. This is the next step from the tool we just looked at, where we're outlining the who and the PL needs to really planning out learning objectives and touch points for this PL. For example, how you want the learners to engage with the content and also who will facilitate it. You will want to ideally align this to your PL calendar and also consider how, again, you'll regularly use SEL embedded strategies throughout all PL. For example, bringing in those 3 signature practices. Okay, so you're realizing this is a lot of PL that needs to happen, right? All of these different folks. Who's going to do this? Please do note that I've included a link to the Student Behavioral Health and Wellness Professional Learning request form. So outsourcing some of this professional learning is going to be very helpful. And we here at the ESD are happy to be your people for this. So please contact us and to discuss what we can create to meet the needs of your stakeholders at any point of implementation, from the very beginning to maybe annually and recurring. We're happy to assist in scaffolding implementation. The third step is to strengthen staff social, emotional, and cultural competence. A strong approach to strengthening adult SEL and cultural competency supports the staff in reflecting on their own social and emotional competencies their own identities and biases, and engaging in practices that can affirm and cultivate students' cultural values and identities. So this really looks like providing frequent opportunities for the adults to practice this, to model and to enhance these competencies, including through those professional learning experiences. So it can look like embedding practices that support them in district and school level staff meetings, again, weaving these competencies into the resources and tools that will guide the staff in their interactions with students, families, and communities. This skill set and practice, so key. It can really help to alleviate burnout. It increases patience and empathy and healthy communication, which can positively contribute to the overall climate of the school or the district office. A great way to get this process started is by providing time and access for adults to reflect on their own social and emotional competencies through the social emotional learning self-reflection. This personalizes it for adults by, of course, starting with them, right? Starting with ourselves. So I've linked that there for you. And if you're an admin or a leader, I've also linked a self-reflection tool for equity-centered social emotional learning leadership practices that is really strong. From there, again, and we've touched on this, but weaving the 5 competencies into daily routines, even for adults, will strengthen this learning. So that could be from building self-awareness into problem-solving protocols, of which I've linked in your notebook, that can allow the staff a way to share their challenges and benefit from a range of perspectives. It can be increasing self-management through establishing those meeting norms, right? To help promote engagement and equity of voice in your meetings. You can use restorative practices for building relationships skills, and even the very small but powerful act of apologizing and taking responsibility for offending others or making a mistake. This is a practice. We're not going to get it right the first time. So the more we can plan when we make these mistakes to build it into our work of how we want to address mistake making at any level, this shows practicing and modeling responsible decision making for your staff. Our next step is to promote staff trust, community, and efficacy. For this one's going to be kind of a deep dig for some folks, especially adults working with other adults, because building trust means some level of vulnerability, and this can be very challenging. So fortunately, the first step that we have for this is the very concrete act of collecting and reviewing data, right? Like, okay, that might be a relief, but this is data around staff perceptions of their work climate, including levels of trust, community, and collective efficacy. So again, we're back to that level of vulnerability, but this is where real transformation occurs. We really have got to see how people are feeling and perceiving the work environment and the work community. So this looks like sending out a survey link for district team members, or maybe collecting some data, gauging how responsive your principals or your SEL leaders are to emails from the district team. And then think about how your district team shows its cohesiveness. For example, have you developed shared agreements for how staff interact in a supportive work environment? Maybe also consider how your staff, again, engages in problem solving, in sharing ideas, or in collaborative reflection or community building. In a small district, this might look like openly communicating about major decisions and changes, encouraging and responding to team input. You can highlight the work your campuses are doing around social emotional learning, invite walkthroughs, or feature them in a newsletter to encourage community building. This is really where your creativity can shine through. Maybe you're already doing many of these things and just need to harness that work and explicitly acknowledge or systematize it. Okay, so a little bit of reflection before we jump into the school level side of things. So take a moment, let what you've heard settle in and sink in. And maybe there's just one thing that's floating to the top. What is it? What is this learning connecting to? Maybe it's connecting to the work you're already doing, maybe just to a feeling. Just sit with it for one moment and connect. All right, awesome. So here we are back at our interactive notebook, implementing for adult social emotional learning at the school level. Many of the resources provided in those previous pages we just discussed can be used at the school level, but I'll share some other resources as well. Within the focus area 2A, we are cultivating a community of adults who engage in their own transformative SEL, build strong connections, and work collaboratively, and then model social emotional learning in their interactions. Adult social emotional learning is a term that is inclusive of the learning and discussion that supports adults to continue to grow and model SEL competencies, as well as the structures and practices that promote adult well-being. So successful SEL implementation, it really depends on how well the staff work together, how they facilitate SEL instruction, how they foster a positive school community, and then how they model this work. And the why for all of this is so big, right? Schools are more effective at teaching and reinforcing SEL for students when they have attended to the adult social emotional learning. And research has shown us, and we all know through our experience, that when educators have strong social and emotional competence, when they feel connected to their school and are supported to cope with work-related stress and emotional exhaustion, it boosts their job satisfaction and their personal efficacy, and it also improves the academic and social and emotional outcomes for our students. So below the key action resources, you will find some resources that are really to build some resilience for our adults, including WISE's Compassion Resilience Toolkit for Schools. There, they've got a robust resource with tips for everything from crafting a compassionate response to colleagues' pain to activities for building wellness and resilience for the mind, the spirit, and the heart that we can do with our staff. There are also links to Panorama Educator, which can help districts support adult capacity for social emotional learning and well-being. And I put a link to the Greater Good in Education. And here's a glimpse at that Compassion Resiliency website. The competency is broken into 3 key actions. And action 1 is to create opportunities to learn and to practice TSEL. I've again included the 3 signature practices playbook to embed those opportunities to practice SEL strategies throughout the school day, and also a link for creating community building circles in classrooms. Also included is a template for creating a professional social emotional learning plan for teacher goal setting. So for some adults, they would be motivated to really embed SEL in their classroom through actionable goals with their administrator. There's also a staff survey for gathering information on the 10 indicators of SEL within a school campus or classroom. The next key action step is to connect and to collaborate. And this is one of those steps that is so important and also highly individualized to the school and the staff. I've included links for creating staff shared agreements, an amazing way to bring in all the voices among staff and begin fostering that collaborative element on your campus. There are also links for using team meetings to support SEL and also how to implement circle discussions for staff, as well as small group teacher discussion guide. These are all great ways to connect and to collaborate that can be systematized and owned by our amazing educators, which are also tools that will hopefully then spill over into their classrooms. Which is a wonderful segue into the last action step, which is to model these interactions. All of the ways that social emotional learning is embedded in staff meetings, in communication with staff and parents, all the ways that it's built into the school culture are powerful models for adults and for students. The more we can embed on all levels, the more saturated our adults will be, and therefore our students will become. Providing educators time and resources to dig into this work themselves and with each other will be the springboard for transformative SEL for our students. We can have our students engaging with SEL curriculum taught by staff, and that's great. That's one piece of the puzzle. But the more we can embed this framework and the standards into our day-to-day interactions and processes, the more our staff and students will be learning and living SEL. So lastly, our intentional closing for today from CASEL's 3 signature practices. Again, it's borrowed from Atlanta Public School SEL team. Build an argument for this quote by providing a quick real-life example. Good discourse sinks difference and seeks agreement, from Amos Alcott. So just something for you to chew on while we close out. And if you have time, we would love you to provide us some feedback on this professional learning. That would be great. Thank you. We'd love to hear from you and how we can best meet your needs. So please feel free. Otherwise, we will see you in our next flipped classroom or at our virtual support office hours. Thanks so much.